Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Swank Tank. We have a special episode for you today, and yes, we are talking about the one, the only Cleveland Browns football team. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Ryan Swankowski. Welcome to the Swank Tank. Overall, I'm starting a brand new series here. We are going to preview and look into every NFL team's offseason, preview their season coming up. I'm going to give you their win-loss. We're going to talk about offseason additions, offseason losses, everything free agency, how the draft worked out for them, their schedule coming forward, everything about them that you want to know and want to hear as an NFL fan, specifically as a Browns fan yourself. That's what we're going to be talking about today. We're starting in the AFC North. We're starting with the Cleveland Browns. We're going to work our way down at the bottom of the division, work our way up towards the top. And so our next episode will be the Cincinnati Bengals, I believe. So welcome into the show. Excited to talk Browns with you today. And again, we're talking everything from offseason additions to offseason losses, NFL draft talk, record predictions. Got some few cool graphics out there. If you're listening, that's fantastic. Again, welcome in. If you're watching, even better on the YouTube, go subscribe to the YouTube. Got some cool stuff for you to look at as you're watching as well. Sorry for the voice. Trying to get it fully back. Have not had my full voice since January, but it's slowly coming back. So thank you for staying with me here. And again, welcome into the show. Let's get to it. Cleveland Browns. Well, I guess I jumped a little bit too early on this graphic here, but that's okay. Browns last season went 3-14. They were last in the AFC North, like I already mentioned. Head coach for this year as returning, Kevin Stefanski, won Coach of the Year 2 years ago, I believe. He is the guy, to me, in Cleveland that can turn this whole ship around. You saw it 2 years ago when they had Joe Flacco at the helm, make the playoffs, and got crushed by the Texans in the playoffs. Regardless, they were not supposed to make the playoffs that year, not with Joe Flacco at the helm of that offense. You look at what is going on with Deshaun Watson. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit as well. I have a bold prediction what's going on as well. All of this to say, I think Kevin Stefanski can completely turn the ship around, and he already has before. Now they're down in the dumps again. I'm winning 3 games last season. I think they'll do better than that this coming season. We'll dive into it. Their schedule is very challenging this coming year. We'll go game by game, and I'll give you my prediction. But to me, Kevin Stefanski, is the guy here in Cleveland for a long period of time, and it's going to take a little bit of a process for sure to get it fully turned around, but I think he is the guy. Offensive coordinator, you got Tommy Rees being promoted in the offseason. Defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz staying at his position. Offensively, this team has no identity, and we're going to get into it when we really talk about the draft. Defensively, you have Myles Garrett, who just got paid an absolute bag a few months ago. He'll be there probably for forever now at this point, and they're going to run him into the ground with no Super Bowl ring. It's sad. It's sad. He deserves better than that, but I guess he deservedly got the money that he wanted. So instead of going for a ring, he got paid what he wanted to. Good for him, and showed a little bit of Cleveland loyalty. I respect it. But yeah, OC newly promoted Tommy Rees, DC Jim Schwartz, head coach Kevin Stefanski going in to the 2025 season. Again, they went 3-14 last year. I'll give you my record or my prediction for what they'll go this year here in a little bit. But now let's dive into the Browns' major offseason additions. As you can see on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, Kenny Pickett, I guess could be called a major offseason addition, coming over from the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to talk a lot about the quarterback room in this episode for the Cleveland Browns. Along with this, guard Tevin Jenkins, you know him from Chicago, signed him to a 1-year deal, started 38 games in 4 years, has major injury concern. That's been the biggest issue with him. Missed a lot of his rookie year in 2021. Can he stay healthy? Will he even need to start at the beginning of the season? I'll give you my starting offense later in the episode, who I project to start week 1 for the Browns. Tevin Jenkins, solid pickup for them. Can he stay healthy? If so, he can be a great backup and maybe even implemented into the starting lineup. Below him, you got Malik Collins, defensive tackle from the Niners, also played for the Texans, and I believe maybe a few other teams. Signed him to a 2-year deal this offseason. Very solid pass rusher, not a great run stopper. Again, they're just looking to add a few more pieces outside of Myles Garrett on that D-line. And Malik Collins here is my favorite signing the Browns had this offseason. That's right. Out of all of them, and there weren't too many, There's a few more coming up right after him. But Malik Collins, to me, was one of the best signings of the offseason for the Cleveland Browns themselves because they absolutely need another pass rusher outside of Myles Garrett. Again, Malik Collins does not grade well when it comes to run stopping. In terms of getting to the quarterback and rushing the quarterback and pressure rate, believe he was top 10 last year, if I'm not mistaken. 30 years old, veteran guy, will be a day one starter 100%. Malik Collins adds a nice dynamic to this defense. So that's my favorite offseason addition for them. Along with Jenkins and Collins and Pickett, they added offensive tackle from the Commanders, Cornelius Lucas. Again, more of a depth piece, nothing too crazy here. 2-year deal, 33 years old, a little bit on the older end. Also has injury concerns, similar to Jenkins. Has had some lower body issues over several seasons, but he started 54 games in his career. Again, 33 years old. Great veteran presence in the locker room for the Browns. And as you can tell, they're just trying to get deeper. They seemingly have a few good pieces on their O-line. Again, later we'll look at who I believe is going to be their full 5 starting offensive line unit. And it's nothing to write home about, but it's solid. And you always need depth pieces and veteran guys in that locker room. So I think both those are more upside than they are downside, have more upside than downside to them. And again, major thing here is just their injury concerns and their veteran presence, especially Cornelius Lucas. So we'll see what those additions mean. Again, I'm surely every team, every season has at least one O-lineman go down. You need to call on the backup or 2 backups even to come in and play some meaningful snaps. Meaningful, taken with quotations here for the Cleveland Browns because I don't think they're going anywhere this year. But got to protect the quarterback at least. So nice moves there for depth pieces on the O-line unit. Outside linebacker Joe Tyron Shoyinka, hard last name to pronounce. 1-year deal from the Tampa Bay Bucks. Again, another depth piece here. 26 years old, not very old. Depth at edge. Should be nothing more than depth, as he's never had more than 5 sacks in a season. But depth is depth. That's what the offseason's made for. That's what the draft's made for, is just getting deeper and becoming an all-around team. So Joe Tyron Shoyinka, we already mentioned Malik Collins, re-signed linebacker Devin Bush. Solid signing there, nothing too crazy. Wide receiver DeAndre Carter comes over from the Bears. He'll be the main return guy. He was actually fantastic, I believe, last season. I believe top 5 in returning yards in punt and kickoff returns. So that's a quality signing that might go under the radar for the Browns. Again, nothing too crazy, but a great special teamer. Linebacker Jerome Baker from the Titans, injury history as well, but solid depth piece. He's on a 1-year deal. Let me take a quick sip of my drink here, because now we're getting into one more guy the Browns signed this offseason. Can you name him? Who's a guy the Browns signed this offseason that I have not named yet? I didn't want to picture him because I don't think he'll last 8 weeks on the Cleveland Browns when it comes to the start of the season. If you said Deontay Johnson, you are absolutely right. Deontay Johnson signed with this team a few weeks ago, and this isn't some major deal, but he's been passed around like crazy, including to the Texans. He's been to the Ravens. He was on the Steelers. Now he's on the Browns. He's been everywhere. This man has been everywhere. Panthers, I believe. There's been a lot of character issues with him. There's been a big locker room issue with him. He ends up in Cleveland. Do I expect Deontay Johnson, to be there for more than 8 weeks? No, I do not. I'm sure he will somehow get frustrated with the organization or with the lack of wins coming from this team throughout the first 8 weeks. And I don't expect him to be a major impact player, but I do have him starting at wide receiver 3 because that wide receiver room for the Browns is quite atrocious. Outside of Jerry Jeudy, who's not even that good, respectfully. So Deontay Johnson, again, is also a Cleveland Brown. Do I expect much from him? No. Do I think he remains on the team for the whole season? No. And that's all we're going to talk about for him. But those are your main kind of offseason additions for the Cleveland Browns. Nothing crazy. My favorite one, again, is Malik Collins coming from the 49ers on a 2-year deal. Adds a great presence to that D-line. Outside of that, nothing too major from the free agent signings for the Cleveland Browns going into the 2025 season. So we talked about offseason additions. Let's talk about some offseason losses now. We'll start with safety D'Anthony Bell. Played all 17 games last season. More of a depth piece himself, but nothing crazy. He went to the Seahawks. He'll be a good depth piece there as well. Again, we're talking a lot of depth at the moment. This is the team that won 3 games last year. They didn't have a lot of star-studded talent, and they retained a majority of that star-studded talent. So, but D'Anthony Bell to Seattle, again, played all 17 games last year. More of a depth piece as well. Mike Ford played 17 games. Anthony Bell, another depth piece that can kind of fill in. He went to the Atlanta Falcons. I like that move for them. More of a veteran guy, consistent guy, played all 17 last year. He'll be a quality. He'll definitely see the field and get some starts in, I'm sure. More regarded as a depth piece, though, in similar fashion to Anthony Bell. Now here's where things get real interesting. Nick Chubb. Man, oh man. The man that has essentially carried the Browns offense for years, ever since coming out of Georgia, getting drafted by the Browns, has had some significant and terrible injuries that have sidelined him for multiple seasons and multiple games now. He is an official free agent, so he is currently not on the Browns roster. Do I expect the Browns to re-sign Nick Chubb? My answer is no. And because you look at what they did in the draft, they drafted not 1, 2 running backs within, I believe, the first 4 rounds. Nick Chubb is not going to be a Cleveland Brown. Nick Chubb will find his way on a team here over the coming months for not much money, but he will make an impact somewhere. Again, he's been in the league a little bit. He's had too many injuries. The Browns can't re-sign him, and obviously they won't now that they drafted 2 running backs in the draft and have Jerome Ford still on the roster as well. So Nick Chubb, sadly, sayonara, he won't be on this team next year. We'll see what impact that has, but I do like who the Browns drafted at running back, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. So Nick Chubb walks away. Jordan Akins, let me shift over this graphic here. Jordan Akins also walks away. I don't believe they'll re-sign him. Again, the Browns drafted another tight end in the draft. So Jordan Akins is definitely going to walk. He's a solid guy. You know, he'll catch maybe 300, 400 yards worth of passes and, 1 or 2 touchdowns in there. More of a tight end 2/3 type of guy. Definitely not a starter worthy guy. And I think he will walk away. The Browns won't re-sign him. So we'll see where/if he lands somewhere. So Nick Chubb, Jordan Akins, both going to leave and are free agents at the moment. Guard Jermaine Ifedi, also a free agent. Again, in those offseason additions, mentioned those depth pieces at O-line. I think Ifedi walks away as well completely. I do not think the Browns will re-sign him. He walks away, looking for a new deal with a new team. Offensive tackle Hakeem Adeniji signed with the Cowboys. Elijah Moore signed with the Bills. Sneaky one here. Didn't have the best numbers. He had over 500 yards last year, had a touchdown. Not, wide receiver 1 or even wide receiver 2 guy, but quality wide receiver 3 that can also do a few special teams things for you. Great depth piece in that locker room. He walks away, signs with the Bills. I like that signing a lot for them. Didn't have to pay him too much. Quality guy that can fill in when needed. Like the signing for the Bills with Elijah Moore. Unfortunately, don't love the Browns getting rid of him or letting him walk away with the wide receiver room they currently have. And again, they brought in Deontay Johnson. This is going to be a bottom 5 wide receiver room in the NFL. And we'll look at it here in a sec. But I believe they should have tried to re-sign Elijah Moore, and maybe they did. But he goes to the Bills, which I like for them a lot. Other free agents include Khaleke Hudson, Dante Foreman, and a few others of that matter. That's who's left this offseason. That's who's left, along with Jameis Winston, who went to the Giants. And that episode's going to be fun. That will be a fun episode. Whenever we get to the NFC East, the Giants is going to be a fun episode. But you lose Jameis Winston, Bailey Zappi, James Prochet, James Hudson to the Giants as well. So Hudson and completely ran for it. Winston, Hudson and Winston go to the Giants, and then those are your main kind of departures. Again, Hudson, Winston, Bell, Ford, Chubb, Akins, other people of that matter that we mentioned. Nothing absurdly, mind-boggling there from the Cleveland Browns letting these people walk. Chubb is the big name there, along with a little bit of Elijah Moore, but you understand that letting go of Chubb. He's given you several great seasons and years for this team, except the injuries add up, the age adds up. You need to get younger, and that's a young position. That's a very young position. Guys defying those odds. There's Derrick Henry is the first guy that comes to mind, and that's basically it. Maybe Aaron Jones has been in the league a little bit, and it's a very young position, and so you can't blame them for wanting to get younger and having guys on rookie deals. Nick Chubb, go find a good home somewhere, but you won't be a Cleveland Browns. So that's the main offseason losses for the Cleveland Browns. We already did the main offseason additions. Now let's get into their 2025 NFL draft class. And if you're an NFL fan, basically who the Browns drafted here. But we're going to go into great detail on who they picked, where they picked them, and my reaction to that. And so, reviewing the Browns 2025 draft class, 5th overall pick, Mason Graham, defensive tackle from Michigan. I really like this pick, personally. Again, the Browns traded back. Jaguars traded up. They got Travis Hunter. Loved the trade for the Browns, getting a first-round pick to move back just to the 5th overall spot. I think that's fantastic. I believe they got more than that as well. Great move by the Browns front office, still trying to recover from the Deshaun Watson trade. This is a great way to get draft capital and just a great way, moving back 3 spots, to still get, in my opinion, a very quality and who will be a long-time starter on your defensive line in Mason Graham. Great move by the Browns here. So they draft 5th overall. Leo Graham, defensive tackle from Michigan, played 3 seasons there, 39 games, 108 tackles, 18 tackles for loss, 9 sacks, 3 passes defended. This is a very quality football player in Mason Graham. And I think it's going to take the roof off for you. And he's not going to go get, 15 sacks in a year or even 10 sacks in a year. He's not going to be that guy for the Cleveland Browns. And they're not asking that of him. They don't want him to be the guy that goes and gets 10 to 15 sacks. They want an absolute absorber in the middle of the defensive line. You already have Myles Garrett, your franchise guy for more years to come, who's getting paid a lot of money. Mason Graham's going to be that absorber, that run stopper, because, again, Malik Collins, who they brought in, is not a great run stopper. Mason Graham will be that guy to stop the run and take up multiple bodies at the same time. I really like this move for the Browns. There was some hate kind of a week after it happened, 2 weeks after it happened, seeing him do some offseason workouts. They said that he's not in great shape because they saw a video of him throwing up during the offseason workouts. It's probably a little bit warm in Cleveland, and NFL pace versus collegiate pace is extremely different. And so, you're going to have guys puking in off-season workouts. You should not be scared of that. If you're seeing videos of this, you should not be reacting as, oh my gosh, did we really just draft this guy 5th overall and he's throwing up during a workout? That's relatively common at the start of, I believe, kind of these off-season workouts, and especially for rookies. I feel like that happens relatively often. So pump the brakes. It's going to be okay. I like this pick for Cleveland. They definitely need more pieces on that defensive line. Again, it's going to be a pure run stopper. He'll add a little bit of pressure when he can. He's there to stop the run, and he is there to take up space on that D-line, which he is great at doing. So I like this pick a lot for Cleveland. Again, 5th overall, Mason Graham. 33rd overall, sticking with the defense here, and then it gets pretty crazy. Carson Schlesinger, linebacker, UCLA. This guy's going to be a day 1 starter for Cleveland. Played 3 seasons, appeared in 38 games, 163 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 2 picks. Again, nothing absolutely jumps off the sheet here. Some people thought this was a little bit of a reach getting Schlesinger, but when you have your guy at 33, you have your guy. Could he have gone probably 45, 50th? Maybe. But in the second round, that's when the, quote, reaches start to happen. And if you want your guy, just go get him. So I've never been big on the whole type of reach thing, because you can have 100 analysts grade some guy and a team really want a solid linebacker earlier than other teams, and they go and get him. So I don't like the whole reach talk usually. Again, there are some times where there are. This is definitely not one of them to me. I think he'll be a solid starter in this Browns defense that is definitely needing a revamp outside of Myles Garrett. And Schlesinger adds a nice piece to that linebacking core. Again, he'll be a day one starter in my opinion. Not going to be a guy where you hear his name, on social media a bunch or be the face of the defense outside of with Garrett. He will be a solid, consistent starter, get several tackles, and he'll add in a few sacks in there. He'll be consistent. He'll be solid. Like this pick as well for the Cleveland Browns. Going with linebacker, trying to bolster up that defense. Again, you get Schlesinger, get Mason Graham, like those two first picks for Cleveland. Now let's get real interesting now with the 36th overall pick, who the Browns traded up, or excuse me, I don't know, I forget if they did or not, but 36th overall pick. Let's talk about it. Now let's talk about 36th overall pick, Quinshon Judkins, running back, Ohio State. Started his career at Ole Miss, was phenomenal there in 2022, led the SEC with 1,500 rushing yards and 16 touchdowns. Ended his career again at Ohio State, played very well for them, won a national championship. I like this pick a lot here for Cleveland. And I think Judkins brings a very physical presence to this team. He can catch out of the backfield. He's dynamic. And with Nick Chubb leaving, they need another running back in this running back room. And I think week 1, he will split carries with Jerome Ford. And by maybe week 4, week 5, be the main starter for this offense. Fresh legs, SEC player. You know what you're getting from Judkins, and you're kind of getting a stud. You're getting a physical guy who can run downhill, but can also catch out of the backfield. So I'm excited to see what Judkins can do in this offense. I think he'll be a big help for everybody, including that bad wide receiver room. So they're going to rely on the run game probably a good amount. And I think Judkins could be that guy, and I think he will be. So I like Judkins a lot, again, from Ole Miss and Ohio State. Got that SEC and Big Ten mindset, and he'll be a physical, downhill type of guy who can also do some things in the passing game as well. So I like this pick a lot for Cleveland. Moving on to 67th overall, Harold Fannin Jr., tight end, Bowling Green. I also like this pick. You have David Njoku there, and you're losing Jordan Akins, so there's a gap to be filled. Harold Fannin Jr. had a fantastic year. He played 3 seasons at Bowling Green, total of 180 catches for 2,300 yards, 17 touchdowns. He also carried the ball 33 times. Don't think he'll be used as a running back, but big guy. He's got good hands and solid draft pick here at 67th overall by the Browns. Within these first 4 picks, I like what they've done a lot. And they're not going out and getting this big name or flashy type of player. You're going to get guys that will be within your organization as you would want for many years to come. They're going to be solid, consistent players for you. These are the pieces that the Browns need to start putting together to where you look back in 2, 3, 4 years saying, these are the guys that are still here that have built this team up from the ground. Harold Fannin could be that great tight end 2 depth piece where you look back and go, okay, it wasn't anything crazy at the time, but what great value and what great things he's done for that organization within the first few years where you don't need anything else in the tight end room, right? Moving forward. And so kind of checking off those boxes and trying to add quality guys to where in the future you look back and go, these are guys that helped start this full rebuild for the Cleveland Browns. Those are the pieces you need. And that's what I believe the Browns have done within these first 4 picks of the draft. You go and get your defensive lineman that will stop the run and take up space. You go get a linebacker that can fly all over the field a little bit, make tackles when needed, maybe get a few sacks in there, but he's there mainly to stop the run, stop the pass, and make tackles in open space. That's what he's there for. You go get a guy like Quinshon Judkins. Nick Chubb leaves. Physical presence, can do things out of the backfield like I mentioned. You know what you're getting with Judkins. He will be solid, and I think he will start very soon on this team. Then you get a guy like Harold Fannin Jr., tight end 2 behind Njoku, who will learn behind him and eventually will transition into that day 1 starter. These are great pieces by the Cleveland Browns, and I'm very high on these first 4 picks. I like them a lot from Cleveland. Moving on to the 94th overall pick, here's where things get a little dicey for me. Dillon Gabriel, quarterback, Oregon. Spent first 3 seasons at UCF. We all know what he did there. He was great. 8,000 yards, 70 touchdowns. Had that injury, I believe. Also, or maybe he wasn't injured. I forget. That's my bad. But UCF, also played at OU. Then goes to Oregon. People thought they were going to make a run at the championship. Got blown out by Ohio State. At Oklahoma, he played 2 years, had 6,828 yards, 55 touchdowns. Quality guy, veteran guy. I mean, he's been in college football for a little while. Finally gets drafted here, 94th overall, to the Browns. And to me, because them getting Shadur Sanders later, I mean, I don't hate the pick. I don't love the pick. I guess it's got upside. And the Browns, Lord knows what they're doing with that quarterback room. It's a great time to bring this up. The Browns have 5 quarterbacks at the moment. Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, Shadur Sanders. Last time I checked, you can only have 3 on the roster. So we'll talk about this more here in a second on what I believe the Browns are going to do with that quarterback room. Will Dylan Gabriel make this team? My initial response is yes. I think he'll be QB3. But we'll see. Can he beat out Kenny Pickett? Can Shadur Sanders beat him out? I don't think so. We'll have to see. Very interesting pick here. I guess the Browns are just looking for anybody at quarterback now, trying to find the answer. And so at 94th overall, I mean, 3rd round, could you have gotten something more useful, quote? Maybe. But quarterback's the most important position on any team. So they're trying to figure out that answer. Don't hate it, don't love it. Dylan Gabriel, again, kind of a guy you know what you're going to get. Maybe has some upside. He's got some mobility to him as well. Nothing like Shadur Sanders' mobility, but solid passer. We'll see. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I expect him to make the team. We'll see. Love this pick here. Again, it's a little confusing with the pick earlier of Judkins, but love this pick as well in terms of value. Dylan Sampson, running back, Tennessee, drafted 126th overall, spent 3 years at Tennessee, totaled 2,492 yards, 5.9 yards per carry. That's fantastic. 35 touchdowns. This is where it gets really awesome. Became the lead back his senior season, so wasn't even the full-time back in 2024, so last season. Took 258 carries for 1,491 yards, 22 touchdowns, led him to becoming the SEC Offensive Player of the Year and second-team All-American honors. We were talking about the SEC Offensive Player of the Year getting drafted at 126th overall. Is it just because he's a running back? Probably so. Phenomenal value here from the Cleveland Browns. And you have Jerome Ford, you have Quinshon Judkins. Now you got a guy in Dylan Sampson who can also be used out of the backfield. Fantastic value here. Was it needed? No, with the Judkins pick and Ford being on the roster. Was the value great? Absolutely. This, in terms of value, fantastic pick from the Cleveland Browns. Can kind of use him as a multi-tool out of the backfield in the run game. He's not quite as physical as Judkins is, who put the head down, but can be used in different ways as well. Fantastic quality pick here from the Cleveland Browns. Dylan Sampson, running back Tennessee, going to Cleveland. And lastly, man of the hour, 144th overall, Shadur Sanders. Oh, man, I should have put my watch on. Shadur Sanders, quarterback, Colorado. I don't need to give you stats about this guy. If you're watching or if you're listening, you know who Shadur Sanders is. Please comment below or think to yourself, what would you grade this draft pick? He's drafted 144th overall. Weeks moving up to the draft. He was expected to go first round. You get him 5th round. Yeah, 5th round. Think to yourself or comment below, what do you think about the Shadur Sanders draft pick? What will be his impact on the Cleveland Browns? Will Shadur Sanders make this roster? These are all questions that will be figured out in due time. My personal opinion is that Shadur Sanders will not make this football roster, given the 5 quarterbacks they have on the team. I do not think Shadur Sanders will make this roster. I do not. And he slid for a reason. And I do think the talent is there. He's got mobility. You've seen him make great throws at Colorado, and he's got upside to him. Don't get me wrong. But in terms of the rumors that were put out there of lack of character and bad interviews and his just personality overall, that does not carry you well into the NFL. This is no longer college football. Your dad is no longer the head coach, and I'm not trying to hate on that specific aspect of this. Yet, you cannot come into the NFL an interview the way he did and have GMs and head coaches publicly say, in a way, that his lack of character and the way he goes about himself and handles himself is poor, it's not going to get you far. My personal opinion, I do not love this pick for Cleveland. I understand it because they're trying to figure out the QB room and they feel that the value is fantastic at 144. But I will say, when a player like this slides, he slides for a reason. And it may not be because of his football skill set or his football mentality. It may be who he is as a person. So I do not believe Shedeur Sanders will make this football roster. Again, 5 current quarterbacks on the roster: Flacco, Pickett, Watson, Gabriel, Sanders. I do not expect him to stay on this roster. I don't think he'll make it. And I'm sure he'll end up somewhere else being a backup and trying to work his way up the ranks. But it's time for a nice little wake up. Absolutely. I mean, you are in the National Football League. This is no longer college. You're not getting your hand held. There's not these big NIL deals coming and making you feel all good. And your best friend next year, you just won the Heisman, is no longer there with you playing. And I know you guys are boys and best friends, but I mean, this is the NFL now. So I expect a full-time wake-up call from the Browns given to Shedeur Sanders, and I do not expect him to make this football team. That being said, there's your full 2025 draft class: Mason Graham, Carson Schlesinger, Quinshon Judkins, Harold Fannin Jr., Dylan Gabriel, Dylan Sampson, and Shedeur Sanders. Overall, quality draft class. Again, Gabriel and Sanders, to me, a little bit iffy. I understand it, though, because they're trying to find the guy to be the guy in the QB room that they've been lacking for years. The Deshaun Watson trade absolutely got now blown out the window. Oh, man. Well, it's not blown out the window because Watson's still on the roster. But you're about to see here in a second. I'm about to get into it. Wow, I think it's going to get blown out the window and just take the loss and move on. But obviously, looking back on it, hindsight, terrible trade for the Cleveland Browns. Watson has been injured, has not played up to standard or what the Browns thought he'd be, giving up 3 first-round picks for him. They're just trying to find the guy that can potentially lead this team into a full rebuild for years to come and increasingly getting better. So I understand the picks. I don't necessarily love them from the pure quarterback standpoint, like who they are and what they bring, but I do understand drafting quarterbacks. Overall, though, outside of those guys, really like what the Browns did. That is your 2025 Cleveland Browns draft class. All right, we reviewed draft class, offseason additions, offseason losses. Let's now get into the starting offense projected by me of the 2025 Cleveland Browns. So if you're watching, I've got the graphic up here that I made, and your initial reaction. If you are watching this on YouTube, please drop your initial reaction to what you just saw. If you're listening, I'll tell you what everybody just saw. My starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns in 2025 is not Deshaun Watson. It is Joe Flacco. I believe Deshaun Watson will get traded this offseason. I don't know when, I don't know to who, and I don't know what for. I personally believe Deshaun Watson will be traded before week 1 of this 2025 NFL season, and that Joe Flacco will be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. And here's why. Look back in 2021, you trade the 3 first-round picks and a 3rd and a 4th to the Houston Texans. You're expecting to get the Pro Bowl guy that played in Houston that ended up getting all those, legal issues with massage people, and I believe it got up to 22 or more different, cases or different people coming out and claiming that Deshaun Watson did some very bad things. And whether it's true or not, I'm not here to talk about that. I'm just here to talk about what Deshaun Watson has done in Cleveland and what the impact has been while he's been on the Browns. And overall, it's been very poor. The Browns wanted Watson to come in, be the Pro Bowl guy he was in Houston, shake off everything that happened outside of the football field, and be not only a quality player, but be the star they've been looking for at quarterback since they drafted Baker Mayfield or since they drafted Johnny Manziel. He was anything but that. Disappointment. Absolute disappointment in Cleveland. They've paid him a lot of money. It's been way too many years now. It's been a project. It's been a project. It hasn't been a process. It's been a project with Deshaun Watson. And it's time to move on. And they've admitted this offseason that it was a very bad trade, looking back on it. And now that you just got to take your losses and move on. Whether they cut him, whether they trade him, which I think they'll do for basically nothing, they're going to have to take on a lot of the cap space. I don't know what they're going to get in return for him. I do think he gets traded. They're going to have to take a lot of the cap. Just take the loss. You can't keep going season after season with Deshaun Watson at the helm of your team because, one, he'll get injured again, I'm sure, and two, he's not the same player. Got to move on. Take the loss, move on. And if I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, I'm sure you're saying the same thing. Move on. It didn't work. He gave up a ton of capital. It was an absolute blockbuster trade that the Texans won 1 billion%. Looking back at it. Take the loss, move on. I think Deshaun Watson gets traded before the 2025 season starts. I don't know where to. I don't know exactly what for. I do know the Browns are going to have to tank a lot of money. Money comes back. Cut the loss, move on. Joe Flacco is my starting quarterback week 1 for the Cleveland Browns. Starting running back Quinshon Judkins. I think he splits time a little bit with Jerome Ford. I think as the season progresses, Judkins will be more of the guy, and he'll fill into a more prominent role. I do think, though, Judkins will basically start week 1. Again, it might be Jerome Ford out there, but I think they'll split carries, and Judkins, to me, will be the starter as the season progresses. Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver 1. My personal opinion, Jerry Jeudy is not wide receiver 1 worthy. They gave him good money, too, and he was fine last year, but this is more of a wide receiver 2. Guys, this is going to be a bottom 5 wide receiver room. Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver 1. Cedric Tillman, wide receiver 2. Deontay Johnson, wide receiver 3. That's bad. I don't know what other words to use professionally here, on this show. I'll just tell you that's bad. No team in the NFL is looking at this wide receiver room and saying, oh, wow, we got to make sure our guys are really prepped to stop Deontay Johnson, who probably won't be there the whole season, or definitely won't be there. Cedric Tillman, okay. Even Jerry Jeudy, okay. I mean, Jeudy can make plays, but to me, he's no wide receiver 1. So bottom 5 wide receiver room. One of the glaring issues of this offense by a mile is this wide receiver room. It's very bad. It's bad. That's your starting 3 wide receivers, though. Tight end David Njoku is very solid. Top 10 tight end in the league. Great hands, great blocking, big frame, big guy. I like Njoku a lot. He's in my opinion probably their best receiver. Njoku starting tight end. Offensive line, left tackle DeJuan Jones. Left guard, Joel Bitonio decided not to retire this offseason. Center, Ethan Pokic. Right guard, Wyatt Teller. Right tackle, Jack Conklin. Nothing crazy about the O-line. Again, there's still room for improvement there. Relatively solid, though. Nothing crazy. I mean, you look at this offense. Are you scared of this offense? No. Not even close. You're not. But this is who I'm projecting to be the 2025 starters. Again, Deshaun Watson gets traded. I don't know to where. He will not be the starter week 1 for the Cleveland Browns. That is my personal opinion. But that's your projected starting offense by me for the 2025 NFL season. Defense, you got Myles Garrett, Malik Collins, Mason Graham. Talked about a bunch, Collins and Graham, during the episode. Isaiah McGuire, Carson Schlesinger, Jordan Hicks, Mohamed Diabate, Got Devin Bush and Jerome Baker behind those 2 as well. Denzel Ward, of course, Grant Delpit, Ronnie Hickman, Martin Emerson Jr., Greg Newsome II. I used ESPN there a little bit to look at more depth stuff, but that's probably your starting defense at the moment for the Cleveland Browns. Overall, I do think this team is going to finish 4th again in the AFC North, and I think 98% of people would probably agree with me, maybe even 100%. Looking at that offense and defense, I think they're just in rebuild mode. I mean, this has been known. This is what the 2025 Cleveland Browns is going to be. It's going to be a bit of a rebuild. They're going to have some exciting pieces. Judkins, Sampson, Fannin. Does Shedeur even make the roster? Does Dylan Gabriel get any time playing? Outside of that, it's not going to be a pretty year for the Browns. Let's get into predicting their 17-game season, and then we'll wrap things up. Let's do it. So if you're watching live, I've got my graphic up here with the win-loss for the Cleveland Browns. And let's get to it. Let's go game by game here. Week 1, Cleveland Browns. at home against Cincinnati Bengals. Believe it or not, I have the Browns winning this game. Week 1, you never know what's going to happen week 1. And in division, at home to start the year with low expectations for this team winning 3 games, I think they're going to shock the world and win week 1. At home against the Cincinnati Bengals, who this year should have a fantastic year and who have very high expectations. Week 1, I got the Browns winning at home in Cincinnati Bengals. Then the losing streak comes. Away at Ravens week 2, loss. Home against Green Bay week 3, loss. Away at Lions week 4, loss. Home against the Vikings week 5, loss. Away against the Steelers week 6, loss. Let's recap the Browns' first 6 games here. Bengals, Ravens, Packers, Lions, Vikings, Steelers. I don't know if a team has a harder first 6-game stretch than that. That's essentially all playoff teams. All of those teams made the playoffs but one. And I do not believe there's a harder 6-game first 6-game stretch throughout weeks 1 through 6. I do not believe there's a harder 6-game stretch. Bengals, Ravens, Packers, Lions, Vikings, Steelers. I think they go 1-5 there, and I think they win week 1 against the Bengals in Cleveland. So they're 1-5, and then I think they get their second win of the season at home against the Dolphins. Then they go on the road to New England. New England's going to be a fun team to watch this year. It's going to be interesting. Mike Vrabel at the helm, Drake May year 2. They're going to be fun to watch. They're going to be a sneakily good team, in my opinion. I think they lose at New England. Browns going into the bye are 2-6 going into the bye, in my personal opinion. After the bye, away at Jets, I'm going to give that a win. Justin Fields, whatever. I'm going to give it a win. Browns win at Jets after the bye. A few more losses coming here. At home against the Ravens, loss. Against the Raiders the next week, away, loss. 49ers in Cleveland, loss. Titans at home, get back in the win column. In Cleveland, playing Tennessee and playing Cam Ward. Browns get back in the win column, they win there. Travel on the road to the Bears, that's a loss. They're in Cleveland against the Bills, that's a loss. They're at home against the Steelers. This is week 17. Win. I think the Browns in week 17 against the Steelers get a win in a absolutely meaningless game for the Cleveland Browns at that point. Last week of the season, week 18, loss away at the Bengals. So totaling that up, I have the Browns going 5-12. That might be a little generous. It may not be. I have the Browns going 5-12 and coming in last again in the AFC North. Their 5 wins coming week 1 against the Bengals. I believe it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Week 7 against the Dolphins. Then after the bye week against the Jets. Later on in the season in Cleveland against the Titans, and in Cleveland as well against the Steelers in week 17, pulling off a crazy upset. So I have the Browns going 5-13, wins against the Bengals, Dolphins, Jets, Steelers, and Titans. That is your 2025 Cleveland Browns preview. Everything from offseason additions, offseason losses, NFL draft class, 2025 season prediction. We got it all going here. And this is one team down, 31 to go. We're starting with the AFC North and working our way throughout from top to bottom. And then we're going to go north, east, south, west for both AFC and NFC. So stick along. It's going to be a fun offseason. But that is your 2025 Cleveland Browns preview. I have them going 5-13. They've got a lot of things to figure out on both sides of the ball still. I do believe they will win 4 to 5 games and be slightly better than they were last year. That is your 2025 Cleveland Browns, in my personal opinion, or 5-12, excuse me. I think I said 5-13, 5-12. We'll see what they end up doing. I'm sure there's still moves to be made. I think Deshaun Watson gets traded. I think we see great things from Judkins and kind of other rookies that they drafted, Mason Graham. And that's all I got for you. So I appreciate you all tuning in to the Swank Tank here. Special episode, Cleveland Browns edition, AFC North again. Got 31 more teams to go. Appreciate you, everybody, for listening or watching. If you're not already, go subscribe to the YouTube, Spotify. Hit me with a follow there. Go follow us on Instagram, TikTok. You can see it below if you're watching, or you can go find us everywhere, basically at the Swank Tank. Really appreciate your time. Hope you enjoy your Memorial Day weekend if you're watching or listening then. And we will be back with more AFC North. I believe next is the Cincinnati Bengals. So that's all I got for you for the Cleveland Browns of 2025. Appreciate you all tuning in, and we'll see you next time.